Hi Reddit. Thanks for being here. Make sure to subscribe and drop a like. It helps the channel a lot. Found out wife cheated on me with my best friend years ago. It's been years since the night my wife finally came clean, but the weight of her confession still presses down on me every single day. Even after rebuilding our marriage, even after learning how to laugh again, even after raising another child together, I can't shake the image of her in his arms. And the worst part is I didn't find out right away. For years, I lived in a bubble of ignorance, thinking that what I had with her was pure, untouchable, safe. But deep down, even now, I know I'll never be the same man again. The story doesn't start with that shocking confession in the mountains, though. It starts years before, with trust, friendship, and a bond that I thought was unbreakable. The irony is that I loved both of them, my wife and my best friend, in different ways, of course, but with the same kind of blind loyalty. That loyalty became my biggest weakness. Back then, life looked good. I was married to a woman I loved, we had a little daughter, and I had a best friend who felt more like a brother than anything else. We'd been close for years before I even met my wife. We were in each other's weddings, we shared milestones, we celebrated victories and comforted each other in failures. He was the guy I'd call when I needed advice, when I wanted to celebrate, or when I just needed to talk. And when I got married, he was right there by my side. He and his wife became our go-to couple for everything. Weekends, birthdays, holidays, it didn't matter. If something was happening, it usually involved the four of us. When our kids were born, we were the first to congratulate each other. Our families meshed perfectly, almost too perfectly, and it felt like life had settled into this safe, warm rhythm that could never be disturbed. That was my first mistake, believing that nothing could disturb it. My wife had been a wonderful partner during the early years of raising our daughter. For the first couple of years, she was the one constantly at home, putting our daughter's needs above her own. She barely had any time for herself. So when our daughter grew a little older and more independent, I didn't hesitate to give my wife more freedom. If she wanted to go out with friends, I encouraged it. She deserved a break. She deserved to have fun. And I trusted her completely. Sometimes, those nights out ended with her best friend driving her home. At first, I didn't think twice about it. Why would I? He was my brother in everything but blood. If I could trust anyone in this world, it was him. So while I stayed home with our daughter, I never once doubted that she was safe with him. Looking back, that trust feels almost laughable. It started as small things, late-night drinks, shared rides home, jokes between them that I wasn't part of. At the time, none of it set off alarms. They were friends. We were all friends. My brain refused to see anything sinister. When you're blinded by trust, the red flags might as well be invisible. But then came the night that cracked the illusion. I had been out myself, and when I got home, I found her already asleep. Nothing unusual about that. What was unusual, though, was the laptop left open in the other room. I didn't mean to snoop. I swear I didn't. I wasn't the type of husband who went through her things or tracked her phone. That wasn't me. But the laptop was open, and her email was on the screen. There it was. A new message. The sender's name jumped out at me instantly. It was him, my best friend. At first, I told myself it had to be something innocent. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe it was about something for the kids. Maybe it was something so trivial that I'd feel like an idiot for even questioning it. But something about it gnawed at me. I didn't know of any reason why he would email her privately. And the subject line wasn't exactly subtle. It had a kind of teasing, playful tone that didn't make sense for anything platonic. My heart started pounding as I clicked it open. The words blurred together at first. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It wasn't a friendly note. It wasn't something harmless. It was filth. It was the kind of explicit, dirty exchange that no married woman should ever be having with anyone, let alone her husband's best friend. They were talking about how much they wanted each other, about sneaking away, about fantasies that made my stomach turn. And then came the photo, her breasts sent to him like some cheap thrill. I remember the way my hands shook. I remember the way my vision tunneled. I remember standing there in the half-dark room, unable to decide whether to scream or vomit. It didn't matter that they hadn't said they'd actually slept together yet. It didn't matter that, on paper, it was just sexting. What mattered was that my wife, the woman I trusted more than anyone, was offering parts of herself to someone else. To him. I stormed into the bedroom, yanked her awake, and demanded answers. She was groggy, confused, caught off guard. When I shoved the evidence in her face, she broke down instantly. Tears, apologies, excuses. It all came flooding out. But not the truth. Not the full truth. That came later. Much later. In that moment, she swore it was only flirting. She swore they'd never taken it further. She begged me to believe her. And like a fool, part of me wanted to. But another part of me was already burning with rage. I left the apartment, slammed the door, and called him. We met face to face, and what he told me was like a dagger with a twist. He admitted they had kissed. Twice. Both times at my house. Both times while I was asleep in the other room. The first time was on New Year's Eve. I had gone to bed early, exhausted, while the party was still winding down. That's when it happened, drunken lips colliding in the middle of my own home. The second time was even worse. On my birthday. On the night meant to celebrate me, they snuck behind my back again. His wife caught them that time, but instead of blowing everything up, she forgave them. They all swept it under the rug, and life went on as if nothing had happened. Can you imagine what it feels like to hear that? That the people closest to you, the ones you trust with your life, chose to betray you not once, but twice under your own roof? I felt sick. He swore it was a mistake. He swore it stopped there. But the emails, the photos, the promises, they told another story. Mistakes don't keep going. Mistakes don't turn into months of explicit conversations and secret fantasies. I told his wife everything. I showed her the emails. Her face crumbled in front of me, and I hated that I was the one shattering her world. But she deserved to know. Those next few months were hell. Broken friendships, broken trust, endless fights. I didn't know whether to leave my wife or try to fix what we had. Somehow, against all odds, we clawed our way back from the brink. She swore to me again and again that nothing physical had happened beyond those 2 drunken kisses. That it was just a mistake that spiraled into something stupid online. That she was sorry. That she loved me. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. And so, stupidly, I did. For years after that, we lived what seemed like a happy life. We cut all contact with him and his family. We focused on our marriage, on our child, on rebuilding. Slowly, the cracks were plastered over. Slowly, the trust began to regrow, at least on the surface. But deep down, a part of me never fully healed. I'd lie awake at night sometimes, staring at the ceiling, replaying those messages in my head. I'd imagine them together. I'd torture myself with images I couldn't confirm. And every time she smiled at me, a small, poisonous voice in the back of my mind whispered, "She's lying." Still, I buried it. I told myself it was over. I told myself that moving forward was the only way to survive. And then, years later, she told me the truth. But that's a story for later. After the storm of betrayal and screaming and broken trust, life didn't end the way I thought it would. We didn't pack our bags. We didn't go our separate ways. Instead, we did something far more complicated. We stayed. I can't say why exactly. Maybe it was love. Maybe it was fear of losing everything. Maybe it was the fact that we had a daughter who didn't deserve to watch her world split in half. Or maybe, if I'm being brutally honest, it was weakness. The truth is, walking away felt impossible at the time. So I told myself we could fix it. I told myself it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Her version of the story was simple. A couple of drunken kisses, a stupid online flirtation, nothing physical beyond that. She begged me to see it as a mistake. Awful, yes, but not unforgivable. And for months, she worked hard to show me she was committed to us. She deleted accounts, blocked his number, erased every possible trace of him from her life. She checked in constantly, answered questions before I even asked them, showered me with reassurances. It was like she was trying to rebuild the house she had burned down with her own hands. And at first, I clung to that. We had endless conversations about trust, about boundaries, about honesty. She swore to me over and over again that she loved me and only me, and I wanted so badly to believe her. I wanted to believe that love could survive this kind of wound. So I played the role of the forgiving husband. On the outside, it almost worked. We started to laugh again. We started to plan things again. We went on little trips with our daughter, celebrated holidays, took photos that made us look like the perfect family. From the outside looking in, nobody would have guessed that anything was broken. But on the inside, I was still bleeding. There were nights I'd lie awake, staring at her while she slept, wondering if she had ever looked at me the way she looked at him. There were moments I'd see her phone light up and feel a pit in my stomach, even though I knew he wasn't there anymore. The damage was done, and even though the surface was smooth again, the foundation underneath was cracked beyond repair. I remember one night, maybe 6 months after the emails, when we were sitting on the couch watching TV. She leaned against me, laughing at some stupid comedy, and for a second it felt normal, safe. Then, out of nowhere, I thought about those pictures she had sent him. The ones meant for his eyes, not mine. My chest tightened so hard I had to excuse myself to the bathroom just to breathe. It was like a ghost haunting me, invisible but always there. And yet, somehow, life went on. Time has a way of dulling even the sharpest wounds, and slowly the day-to-day routines of marriage and parenthood took over. Our daughter grew older, started school, and demanded more of our attention. Work got busier, bills piled up. Life didn't give us the luxury of sitting around and dissecting the past forever. So we built new memories, vacations, birthdays, family milestones. And gradually, the betrayal became something like a scar, visible if you looked closely, but no longer raw and open. There were even moments I let myself believe we had made it through stronger. We talked more openly about our feelings. We became more intentional about spending time together. There were long walks, late-night talks, inside jokes that belonged only to us. But the scar never fully disappeared. Every so often, something would trigger me. A random song, a phrase, a look she gave me that felt a little too forced. And suddenly, the ghost of that betrayal would rise again, reminding me of what she had been capable of. I never told her how often those ghosts visited me. I kept it inside, thinking that maybe silence would make them fade faster. But in reality, all I was doing was burying landmines that would explode years later. I convinced myself that trust had been rebuilt, that we had closed the chapter. But deep down, I knew I was holding on to a version of the story that wasn't complete. The truth was still out there. Years passed, and with them, the intensity of my suspicions dulled. By the time 7 years had gone by, I had almost convinced myself that I had overreacted back then. That maybe it really had just been kisses and emails. That maybe, just maybe, she had told me the truth after all. We even had another child together. Our family grew, and with it, the illusion of stability. We celebrated milestones, birthdays, anniversaries, school plays. We hosted family dinners, smiled in photos, lived what seemed to be the picture of a happy marriage. And honestly, in many ways, we were happy. She treated me with love. She was a great mother. We had passion, laughter, and warmth. People envied us. If you asked me during those years whether I felt lucky, I would have said yes. But that scar never disappeared. I'd find myself staring at her sometimes, wondering if the version of her I had built in my head was real. I'd wonder what her face had looked like when she was with him. I'd wonder if there were moments, even during our happiest times, when she thought about him instead of me. It's an exhausting way to live, with one foot in the present and one foot trapped in the past. Still, I thought we had survived. I thought we were done with secrets. And then came our 12th anniversary. We had rented a cottage in the mountains, just the two of us and our kids. It was supposed to be a celebration of everything we'd built together. 12 years of marriage, 2 children, a life that had been tested but had endured. The first night was perfect. We cooked, laughed, played games with the kids. When they finally went to bed, we poured some drinks and sat outside under the stars. Felt peaceful, like the kind of night you remember for years. And then the conversation shifted. Started casually, reminiscing about old times. About our early years of marriage, about the friends we used to hang out with. Inevitably, his name came up, the friend we no longer spoke to. I didn't expect anything. To me, he was a ghost from the past, someone we had both chosen to bury. But she went quiet. Her face changed, and I knew instantly that something was coming. What she said next shattered the fragile illusion I had built for myself. She told me the truth, all of it, and that's where everything I thought I knew about my marriage came crashing down, again. Her voice trembled when she started. She said, "I need to tell you something I should have told you years ago." My stomach dropped. Even before the words came out, I knew. My body knew. The scar inside me that had never fully healed started to burn again. I just stared at her, waiting. And then she said it. It wasn't just kisses. It wasn't just emails. I was with him for months. I slept with him. The world seemed to freeze. The stars above us blurred. The night sounds faded. It was just her voice echoing in my ears. I whispered, "You slept with him?" She nodded. Tears slid down her face. "For 6 months," she said quietly. "Back then, when everything was messy, when you were working late, when we were fighting all the time. I thought it was over between us. I was so angry, so lonely, and he was there. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Felt like my chest caved in. 6 months. Not one drunken mistake. Not just a kiss. Not just stupid emails. 6 months of betrayal." I stood up, pacing. My hands shook. "You let me believe all these years that it was just kissing? Just some stupid messages?" She sobbed. "I was scared. I thought if I told you the truth, you'd leave me. I thought I could bury it and that maybe we could still be happy. And weren't we? We had good years, didn't we?" I laughed bitterly. Good years built on a lie. The anger was volcanic. I wanted to scream, throw things, run away. But at the same time, there was this twisted calm because a part of me had always suspected. A part of me had always known. "Why now?" I asked finally. "Why tell me now?" She wiped her face, looking broken. "Because I don't want to die with secrets. Because I love you, and I want us to be real. I don't want this to be between us forever. I needed to come clean." I didn't know if I should hate her more for lying back then or love her for being honest now. It was both. It was everything all at once. I left her sitting on that porch and walked down the path toward the trees. My head spun. Images of them together flooded my mind. Her hands on him, her body with his. And worse, all the times I'd trusted him to take care of her, to drive her home, to be my brother, my best friend, my wife, the two people who weren't supposed to hurt me. I thought about our kids asleep in that cottage, about the life we had built, about the fact that she had just ripped open a wound I'd convinced myself was healed. I thought about leaving. When I finally went back inside, she was still crying. She looked up at me like a prisoner waiting for a verdict. I sat across from her, silent. Finally, I asked, "Did you love him?" Her eyes widened. "No, never. It wasn't love. It was weakness. It was loneliness. It was selfishness. But it wasn't love." "Did he love you?" I pressed. She shook her head. "No. It was just physical. Just wrong. We both knew it. I didn't know if that made it better or worse. Then I asked the question I didn't even want the answer to. Was it good? She froze. Please don't ask me that. I need to know, I said. My voice cracked. She whispered, it didn't mean anything. It was never better than us. It was never worth it. I leaned back, exhausted. My chest felt like it had been hollowed out. The next days were a blur. We still had to smile for the kids, cook meals, pretend everything was normal. But behind closed doors, it was chaos. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and stare at the ceiling, wondering how I could ever touch her again. She'd reach for me, and I'd flinch. But despite the rage, the humiliation, the heartbreak, there was also something else. Love. I hated that it was still there, but I still loved her. I still wanted her. And that made everything so much harder. We fought, cried, yelled, stayed silent for hours. Some nights I thought I'd pack a bag and never look back. Other nights, I held her while she cried and realized I couldn't imagine my life without her. I confronted him too. I called him after all those years, my voice shaking with fury. He didn't deny it. Yes, he said. It happened. We were both wrong.
I'm sorry.
I told him I'd never forgive him, and I told his wife everything. That part of the story was ugly. Their marriage crumbled after that conversation, and I felt both vindicated and guilty. He lost everything, and part of me thought, good. But another part thought I should have stayed out of it. As for us, it took months of hell. Months of therapy, of screaming matches, of nights spent apart. Months of wondering if it was worth saving. But somehow we clawed our way back. I don't even know how to explain it. She fought for me. She showed up every day, even when I hated her. She apologized 1,000 times. She wrote me letters, poured out every ugly detail, gave me full access to her life. She laid herself bare. And slowly, I started to believe her again. We rebuilt piece by piece, brick by brick. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. And here's the strangest part. After all of it, our marriage became stronger, more honest, more real. There were no more secrets, no more pretending, just raw truth even when it hurt. But here's what nobody tells you about forgiveness. It doesn't erase the past. Even now, years later, I still think about it. I still picture them together sometimes. I still feel that sting of humiliation. I love my wife. I know she loves me, but I also know she was capable of betraying me in the worst possible way. That knowledge never fully disappears. So how do I live now? With a contradiction. I live with both love and anger, with both closeness and distance, with both gratitude for the life we've built and bitterness for the way it was almost destroyed. And that's the truth of it. The woman I love more than anyone in the world is also the one who hurt me the most. And somehow I've chosen to live with that.